All right, you are listening to the Sword Chomp podcast number 3. My name is Morgan, and I will be your host today, and I'm joined by the staff, my friends of Sword Chomp. I'm going to get to some introductions here. Josh, how are you doing today? Joshua Fowler to my left. How are you doing today, Josh?
Pretty good. I'm way to your left.
You're
way to your left.
You're so far. And Josh has been busy this week bringing Sword Chomp podcast to iTunes.
Yay!
Which is so. You were running into some issue though. Like all week, Josh was messaging us because he was messing with like the file sizes, and we were just trying to get Sword Chomp on iTunes finally. And you were running into some weird issue getting us up there, but we're up there. I mean, if people are listening to this now, they probably found us. But what were you running? What was the problem that you were running into getting our show on there?
Just new Squarespace protocol, because I haven't used it in it's been almost 5 years now since we stopped using Squarespace, and everything has changed since then. So I thought I knew how to do everything, and it turns out I don't any longer. So just running into problems constantly.
Keep showing your toes, though. Keep showing your toes, and that's cool. So we have Josh to thank. We are now finally on iTunes, which is pretty awesome. So good job, Josh. And Fish, fished far to my right here. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, sir.
Fish has been trying to juggle some gaming time in between his 2 jobs. And what, your kid started school this week?
Yeah, she started kindergarten this year, and she's enjoying it. It's quite a bit for her, though. I mean, her time schedules has changed for the better, I would say, for her at least, because now she's getting up at a decent time and going to bed, at a normal time.
Normal human. That was always the worst thing about. I remember from like being a kid when summer was over and you had to start going to school, and like you had to like train your body to get back onto like normal sleeping hours. But she's still real young, so
yeah, she's resilient right now, so she could definitely manage that. Unlike us older bodies that are just not so susceptible to change.
Yeah, that's cool though. Kids starting school. That's pretty awesome. And Shay, I wanted to throw it to you last year. How are you doing this week, Shay?
Doing magnificent.
Magnifico. I wanted to throw it to you last year. I wanted to throw it to you last year because last week when you were doing our show, in our news section, we were talking about a game called Pokemon Uranium. And that's all I've been hearing about from you all week is Pokemon Uranium.
He downloaded it.
I legally got it before the game was taken down by Nintendo, of course.
Oh,
Well,
so
that's
it makes it
what I
legit?
heard.
Yeah. I got it from their website. Yeah, I ended up getting it, and it's been interesting. I have a lot of varied, mixed opinions about it, and I'm excited to delve deeper into them later on, or now.
Well, yeah, we can get into it. I mean, we've all played. I mean, we can all kind of chime in. I played Pokemon Uranium, but Fish and Josh play Pokemon.
They do play Pokemon.
Go ahead, Fish. Sorry.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything.
So
I have played it, though. I've played Pokemon numerous times.
dabbled into. So I mean, I think it'll be interesting to people listening because if they're wondering what Pokemon Uranium is, maybe it's not something they've really heard of. It's kind of a weird fan-made Pokemon game that people who just love the series spent making over. Like, do you know how many years it was, Shay, that they've been making?
Yeah. So it was 9 years in the making. They've been, continuously working on it for the past 9 years, and basically it's about you play as Pikachu and you go into various sex dungeons in the Kanto region trying to release Pokemon before Professor Oak and his goons molest the Pokemon. And it's I can't keep a straight face.
That sounds a lot like Pokemon Go.
Same thing.
Yeah.
No, it is It's kind of based in the Gen 3 time frame, roughly, of in terms of mechanics and graphics. Um, but yeah, it's very similar to the other games.
It's just
Um,
like a throwback to classic Pokemon games. It's
abs-
it's a it's just like a free fan made downloadable game that you can get. Um, and they took it down so you can't find it anymore. So
that's the rumor.
that's the rumor, but you can find it places. But it's an interesting thing to talk about because there are a lot of people that really like the throwback to the golden age of Pokemon, which is weird because I remember like for the longest time people were just like Pokemon games are all the same, blah blah blah. And then now there's all these people that really want to go out of their way to find like a throwback to a classic Pokemon game. So like like what about it was interesting to you? Like why did you go out of your way to download this fan-made Pokemon game after we started talking about it?
Well, it's interesting you bring up that point about the throwback, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. The thing that really enticed me is obviously, well, not obviously, for people who haven't heard us at Second Playthrough when we used to podcast previously under that name, Josh and I were very, very harsh on Morgan for his constant bringing up of Pokemon, and then Josh and I both played Black and White, and I ended up going to get Heart Gold, I believe, and playing that one, and then I got Black and White 2, put a bunch of hours into that one. X and Y, put a bunch of hours into that one, and I just honestly it rekindled my affinity for Pokemon, and so with this one, I wanted to see if it really could be as like if a fan or a group of fans could make a game and capture the essence and the magic of what Game Freak and Nintendo have created with Pokemon, more or less. And for me, at first, I was a very harsh critic. I noticed little things like when an enemy takes damage, the bar is slightly different. It isn't just like a streamlined like you see the health go down. It's like a very like disjointed poor version of that. And it's just that like one mechanic. But there's a bunch of little things that I noticed about that across uranium. And I was initially really harsh on it, and I was like, man, I don't know if this can sustain. And then like earlier this week I was pretty sick. I still am a little bit sick, and I took a day off from work and I just sat at home and I was like, I got nothing better to do. I'll just play a few hours of Pokemon. I played all fucking day. I didn't shower. I didn't eat. I just played Pokemon for like 12 hours straight, and it was a great game. I had a lot of fun with it. Um, but the one thing I kind of wanted to say to go off what you said, Morgan, is really that the point that you said that it was interesting that people have said Pokemon haven't hasn't changed, the games haven't changed over the past years. You play this older game and then you go look at the new games and it's changed so much. It really has. I mean, like the core mechanics obviously haven't changed, but they've done so much different things with it and it's evolved so much. And it really made me appreciate the newer games. And one of the biggest differences is you don't have to grind near as much in the new games as you do in the old games. And that's become increasingly clear.
Yeah, they kind of streamlined that game actually, or the newer games, I would say, like
Hmm.
Pokemon X and Y. I remember before X and Y, if you were actually building competitive type of Pokemon to battle your friends with, you'd have to, EV train them and check out their IV stats, make sure they're a really strong Pokemon to begin with. But that's kind of the min-maxing of that RPG type of elements that Pokemon has. But yeah, um, yeah, they've just slowly progressed and added new stuff to each generation that comes in, and yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. It's very welcoming to the fans. I would say it's well received.
I mean, we came from the era of games where grinding was a necessity, and it doesn't bug me as much, but it's still like me getting older, having played enough games where grinding was necessary. I've done it enough in my life, and it's nice to see the new generation of games evolve to where grinding is not. It still happens. It's just done, I think, a lot better now in different ways. So it's not just like I'm gonna walk to this patch of grass, kill 30 of the same Pokemon to get this one Pokemon to gain a level. Now let me go to the same grass area, or make 30 Pokemon faint, and this one gains level now. It's not like that anymore, and I'm thankful for that reason.
Well, and that's
But
one thing I was going to say before did you have any thoughts on it, Josh, before? Because I had something I want to say on it, but I wanted to see if you wanted to chime in there at all.
But just kind of on the same note, grinding is just, I don't know. I can see how some people would want something just to mindlessly veg out to, but I don't know. I don't appreciate that as much as I used to. Yeah, I really appreciate a lot of the streamlining of games recently. So
Yeah, and my thought was I agree because there's so many, like the funny thing about playing hardcore Pokemon games or being really entrenched in the series is you notice all the little fine-tuned things to where if you go back and play the older games, you're like, oh man, people that say Pokemon games are the same thing really don't realize how many nice changes they've made to the core of the game. But the biggest thing I was thinking about when Shay started playing this that I was trying to tell you guys all about, because I felt a little negative on the last podcast whenever we brought it up. Like I was like, hey, it's pretty fun. I played it for 60 hours, but it's just a fan made thing. It's not real, but whatever. I felt
yeah,
kind
that
of like,
really pissed me off when you said that. When I was like the other day, when I was like pouring through all these really cool fan made Pokemon, and I was like, man, these are sweet, and you're like, yeah, but they're not real.
well, it's 12 hours of your life you spent playing a game that's not real, Shay. It's all fake. It's all an
It's
illusion.
real. So like people took the time to make it. I mean, like, what if Pokemon had just Pokemon Red and Yellow and Blue, and that was the only part of that? Like, would that be real at that point?
Well, so this is what I would say. I actually wrote this down as one of my notes too because it was something I was thinking about. It's an awesome game. I love that it's basically a loving fan made tribute, and a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into making it. And I played it for like 60 plus hours, and I really enjoyed it. Would I have played it outside of work or the setting I was in if I wasn't bored? I don't know. But the biggest thing is it's not technically like canon, and canon is a word that's thrown around in fandoms. Yeah, I know that sounds silly because it's not like something story driven.
well,
But
technically, it's not
um,
real Pokemon. It's anyway.
no, that's how I felt. I was like, they're not real Pokemon. This is not good enough. But it kind of reminded me of the Game of Thrones game that came out. Like I'm entrenched enough in video games to make a podcast about it, and I'm also I think most people that know me would probably say I'm one of the most hardcore Game of Thrones fans I'll ever meet. But I have trouble really getting into the Telltale Games Game of Thrones games because even though they're well made and they're cool, it's like I know that none of the consequences in the game really affect the actual story that he's writing. It's akin to fan fiction, which is fun, and it's not meant to be a slight because it's just Pokemon. You're just grabbing random little cute monsters, training them and fighting. It's just a fun thing. You know what I mean? It's not like there's some serious plot element that they're destroying or anything stupid.
So my question to that then would be, because the Game of Thrones show has surpassed the books, isn't that just fan made at this point? Because George R. R. Martin isn't working on the TV show anymore because he's trying to finish his book. So at that point, isn't it just fan fiction as well?
Well, what do you know? I mean, to a degree, the show is, and the show is well made, but I don't know how much they know. Like for example, the people that made Game of Thrones, the TV show, we don't know how much information George has given them. How much are they making up on the fly? How much of it, when I read the books, is actually going to be something that happened on the show? I don't know at this point. It's kind of an interesting, mystery there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get personally, I don't get the feeling that this Pokemon game isn't real, and I don't get the feeling that it doesn't matter because I'm having a lot of fun with it.